Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about algebraic expressions, the parts, and we are also going to talk about combining like terms, which is something new. So remember, anytime I type, you're typing. Anytime I write, you're writing as well. So the first thing I want you to do is go ahead in this first box, and I want you to identify that this entire bracket is known as an algebraic expression. I'm just going to center that a little bit right above that bracket. So you're writing that in right now. That entire piece right here is known as an algebraic expression. Now in class, we talked about these numbers that are in front of the variables, or the numbers that are being multiplied by those variables. And those are known as coefficients. I want you to make sure that you are, I'm going to highlight it. Let me highlight this and make it bigger. Make sure that you are writing that in. If I'm writing, remember you are as well. So those numbers in front of those variables are known as coefficients. And we know those numbers are multiplied by whatever the variable is. Now, speaking of variable, notice this arrow is pointed to the x. That x value is known as the variable. If I could spell, that'd be better, right? So go ahead and write the word variable. That points up to that letter X. And then last but not least, we have what's known as, I'm going to write this one in orange. Let's go orange. We have what's known as constants. Constants, remember, never change. Constants always, and I just want to make sure you understand this, include the sign in front of the number. So in this situation, the constant is a -7. Because the negative is in front of that 7. We're going to take a look at some examples, and we're going to look at how we can identify the coefficients, constants, terms, and like terms. I do want to mention that in class we also learned about terms. So over here on the side, I just want you to write the word terms. And remember, those are numbers or letters separated by addition or subtraction. So in this situation, we have -7, a +9x, and a 5x squared. So in this situation, we have 3 terms, and I want you to make sure you identify that. Let's take a look at this first example. It says, use the following algebraic expression to identify the key parts listed below. Well, the first thing we're going to do is write a list of what our coefficients are. Now, if you look at our definition for coefficient, coefficient is always the number that is being multiplied by the variable. Remember, it is right in front of the variable. So I just pointed to 2 of them. So let's go ahead and write down what those coefficients are. We have a coefficient of 9, which is in front of the x squared. We have a coefficient of 7, which is in front of the x. This -2 doesn't have a variable, so that is not a coefficient. But look here, I have a variable, but there's nothing in front of it. Remember, when there's nothing in front of a variable, you can always write the number 1, because we do have 1x. So that coefficient really is the value of 1. This +5 does not have a variable, so that is not a coefficient. What's my coefficient here? It is in front of the x squared, which is a variable. But remember, we have to include the sign that goes with the number. So that coefficient is actually -4. Now we're going to take a different color, and we're going to look at some of our constants. Remember, our constants does not have a variable. So here's a number right here without a variable. That would be one of our constants, and that constant is a -2. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down. I also have a constant of +5 because that one does not have any variable attached to it as well. Now I'm going to look at terms. Terms, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight with the color yellow. Remember, terms are numbers or letters that are separated by addition and subtraction. Let me go ahead and erase some of this just so you guys can see this. We're going to get rid of this arrow here, this arrow here. There we go. Maybe this circle. We're going to get rid of that right here, and we're going to get rid of this. Now, if I'm looking at my terms that are separated by addition and subtraction, I have a term here because here's an addition sign, a term here because here's a subtraction sign, a term here, here's an addition sign, so a term here, here's another addition sign, so here's a term, and finally we have a subtraction sign. This is my last term. So if I count, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 terms. 6 terms. And if you want to highlight them in a different color so you can see them, you're more than welcome to. Now there's something different here. It says like terms. Ooh, that's different than just plain old terms because I want terms that are actually alike. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my color. Let's switch colors once again. I'm going to go with a nice hot pink. Why not? I'm going to get rid of these current terms just so you guys can go ahead and have a fresh page here to look at. Now remember, like terms are going to be terms that are separated by addition and subtraction, but they're going to look alike. So let's look here. If I go through this entire expression and I look at all of my variables, notice here I have an x squared. I'm going to keep looking to see if I have any other x squareds. Well, I do. Here's an x squared. So guess what? Those are both like terms, and those terms are both x squareds. So my like terms, I'm going to have x squareds, and I'm going to go ahead and write what those are. I have a 9x squared. Sorry about my slow writing. And I also have a negative 4x squared because those have a negative sign in front of them, and I have to carry the negative with it. I have now written this one, and I have now written this one. So now we're going to go ahead. I'm going to change my color once again, and I'm going to look for another set or terms that look alike. Well, I go down the line, and I've got an x here, and I keep going. Oh, and I have an x here. Do I have any other x's? No, because remember, these are x squareds. They're not the same thing as an x, so they're not like terms. So I do have x's. So I'm going to go ahead and make an x's. That's what that says, x's, column. And under that column, I have a positive 7x. And I also have a positive 1x. I'm going to go ahead and cross this one out because I've used that. And now I've used this. Oh boy, what do I have left? I have numbers that don't have variables. Well, guess what I call those? I actually call those no's because they have no variable. So I'm going to go ahead and write no's. Under my no's column, I have a negative 2. I'm going to write it. Oh, sorry about my sloppy 2 there. And I have a positive 5. So I'm going to go ahead and write that. Positive 5. I've used this, I've used this, I've used all of my terms. So now I've put together all the terms that are alike. Guess what I have to do now? I have to combine them or add them or subtract them based on the signs given. So I'm going to draw a line under here because now I'm just adding my terms together. How many x squareds do I have? Well, 9 minus 4 is 5. So I have 5x squareds. Now I'm going to look at my x column. I have a positive 7 and a positive 1. Well, positive plus a positive is just a positive. And 7 plus 1 is 8. So I have 8 x's. Now I'm looking at my no's. I have 2 bad guys, or 2 negatives. And I have 5 good guys, or 5 positives. So when I put them together, negative 2 plus 5, I have more good guys than bad guys, so it's a positive. And then I have 3 more good guys than bad guys, because 5 minus 2 is 3. So that would be how I would simplify that algebraic expression. Now we're going to do some examples of combining like terms. What I want you to do is to do the two examples with me, and then you're going to do some on your own. I want you to go down to letter E, because E I think is going to be very important to look at because it's a little bit more difficult. I'm going to put E right there so that you can see the whole thing. First thing I do is I go through all of my terms and I look for variables that look alike. Well, it looks to me like I have a k squared here. I have another k squared here. Oh, and I have a k squared here. Remember, if there's no number in front of the k squared, I can always just write a 1. So I do have a column that I'm going to call k squareds. And I'll put a little s there because those are my k squareds. What am I going to write under my k squareds? I have a negative 10 k squared. And I have a negative 3 k squared. Oh, I need to stop. Okay, we're going to finish this in class. Good luck.